Ever scrolling through car listings and suddenly you see it? A Porsche Taycan, the same electric supercar that cost over $100,000 just 2 years ago, now sitting at $70,000. Your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. The Taycan really is getting that cheap, and today we're going to break down exactly why this is happening right now. Let me start with something wild. Some dealers were recently offering brand new 2024 Taycans for under $1,000 a month on lease deals. That's less than what many people pay for a Ford F-150. We're talking about a Porsche here, not some budget electric car. So what's really going on? The biggest reason the Taycan looks cheap right now is because Porsche basically reinvented the entire car for 2025. And I'm not just talking about adding Apple CarPlay or changing the steering wheel. The 2025 update was massive, like switching from dial-up internet to fiber optic massive. The new Taycan charges 50 kilowatts faster than before, which means it can now hit 320 kilowatts at Electrify America stations. That cuts your charging time by several minutes on road trips. But here's where it gets really interesting. The range jumped by 35% on some models. We're talking about cars that can now go over 300 miles on a single charge, compared to the old ones that barely cracked 250. Think about it this way: if you owned a 2023 Taycan and your neighbor just got a 2025, they're driving from Denver to Vail without charging, while you're stuck stopping in Georgetown. They're charging faster than you at every Walmart parking lot charger, and their car has better suspension than Porsche calls active ride. It's like having the same iPhone, but theirs has double the battery life and 5G, while you're stuck on 4G. No wonder the older models are dropping in price like GameStop stock. Now, here's where things get really interesting with the money side. The IRS has this $7,500 tax credit for electric cars. But there's a catch. The car has to be built in North America to qualify for regular buyers. The Taycan is built in Stuttgart, Germany, so normally you wouldn't get anything. But leasing companies found a loophole. When Porsche Financial Services leases you a Taycan, they qualify for something called the Commercial Clean Vehicle Credit, and they can pass that $7,500 directly to you as lower monthly payments. But wait, it gets better, or worse, depending on if you already bought one. Porsche was so desperate to clear out 2024 models when the new ones arrived that they started this program where they would match dealer discounts. Some buyers were getting $22,500 off the sticker price. That's right, $22,500 off a Porsche. Dealers in Denver, Fremont, Riverside, they were all advertising these deals openly. You could literally lease a car that cost $120,000 for less than what most Americans pay for their Chevy Tahoe lease. Let me paint you a clear scenario of how crazy this got. You could walk into a dealership in Houston or Miami, point at a brand new 2024 Taycan with all the fancy options, and pay less per month to lease it than someone who bought a used 2022 model was paying on their car loan. That completely broke the normal rules of car buying, where used is supposed to be cheaper than new. But the Taycan isn't getting hammered just because of Porsche's own decisions. The entire electric car market went through something brutal in 2023 and 2024. Tesla started cutting prices on their cars like it was Black Friday every month. The Model S, which directly competes with the Taycan, dropped by tens of thousands of dollars. When Elon Musk does that, every other electric car has to respond or sit on dealer lots forever collecting dust. The numbers are shocking. Used electric car prices dropped 32% year over year at one point, while gas cars only dropped single digits. That's like your house losing a third of its value, while your neighbors only dropped 5%. The Taycan, being an expensive electric car, got hit from both sides. The luxury car depreciation that always happens, plus this new electric car depreciation that nobody really expected. And then Porsche had to deal with something that scared a lot of American buyers: recalls. In late 2024, they had to recall 27,527 Taycans in the US alone, because of a battery problem. The issue was serious. Certain battery modules could short circuit and potentially cause a fire. Porsche had to tell owners to only charge their cars to 80% until they could get them fixed. That's like buying a new phone and being told you can only change it to 80% or it might explode. The situation got even more dramatic overseas. The UK Government Safety Authority actually made Porsche dealers stop selling certain used Taycans temporarily while they figured out the battery monitoring software update. Now, that news travels fast on the internet, and American buyers saw those headlines too. When buyers get scared, prices drop. Simple as that. Here's something most Americans don't think about until it hits them at renewal time: insurance. The Taycan is one of the most expensive electric cars to insure in America. We're talking potentially $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more per year compared to a similar gas-powered Porsche. State Farm, Geico, Progressive, they all charge more because when these cars get damaged, especially the battery, the repair costs can be astronomical. Speaking of batteries, let me blow your mind with some numbers. If you damage a Taycan battery outside of warranty, Porsche dealers have quoted $50,000 or more for replacement. $50,000 just for the battery. That's more than the median American income for an entire year. Sure, Porsche covers the battery for 8 years or 100,000 miles, but what happens when that warranty runs out? Buyers are terrified, and scared buyers don't pay top dollar. The timing of everything made it even worse. In 2024, Porsche only delivered about 20,000 Taycans worldwide, down 49% from the previous year. But that's new cars. The used market was getting flooded with 2020 through 2022 models coming off lease. Cars from rental fleets like Hertz dumping their electric inventory faster than airlines dump overbooked passengers, and all those recalled cars that dealers needed to move. Meanwhile, Porsche launched the Macan Electric, their new electric SUV, and suddenly, soccer moms and dads who wanted a Porsche EV had another option. Why buy a used Taycan sedan when you could lease a brand new Macan SUV for similar money? Americans love SUVs more than apple pie at this point. The Macan sold over 18,000 units in just a partial year, stealing buyers who might have looked at Taycan. Competition is crushing the Taycan from every direction. Mercedes has the EQE and EQS with massive incentives at every dealer from Seattle to Miami. Lucid is practically giving away Air sedans to move inventory, offering deals that would make a used car salesman blush. BMW's i7 is fighting for the same buyers, and Tesla keeps playing with prices like they're adjusting a thermostat. Every time there's a price change, every electric car owner watches their car's value drop in real time on Carvana and CarMax. You know what's really messed up? The new 2025 Taycan actually costs more than ever on the sticker. Base models start at $99,000 to $108,000 before you add a single option. The Turbo S, that's approaching $200,000, more than most Americans' houses in plenty of states. But sticker prices don't matter when nobody pays them. It's like those furniture stores that are always having a going out of business sale. The tag might say $5,000, but if it's always on sale for $2,000, is it really worth $5,000? The craziest part is how different this looks depending on where you are in America. In California or New York, that $7,500 federal lease credit completely changes the math. You see it on every Porsche dealer website from Los Angeles to Manhattan. Get $7,500 off when you lease. Some states add their own incentives on top, but if you're in Texas or Florida, you only get the federal credit, no state help. Let me break down what this means with real numbers that hit home. A 2021 Taycan Turbo that sold new for $150,000 is now worth maybe $70,000. That's $80,000 gone in 3 years. That's like losing $219 every single day you own the car. You could literally light a $100 bill on fire every morning and another one every night and still lose less money than Taycan depreciation. The insurance situation deserves its own explanation because it's killing demand for used Taycans across America. Insurance companies look at claim data, and electric cars, especially expensive ones, have terrible claim costs. When a Taycan gets in even a minor accident on I-95 or the 405, body shops often have to order parts from Germany, use special equipment that most shops don't have, and have technicians with specific training that maybe 3 guys in your state possess. A fender bender that would cost $5,000 to fix on an F-150 might cost $15,000 on a Taycan. Then factor in the battery replacement fear that keeps buyers up at night. Yes, Porsche warranties the battery for 8 years or 100,000 miles, which sounds good until you realize that 2020 Taycans are already approaching 5 years old. In 3 more years, those early cars will be out of warranty. If a battery fails after that, you're looking at a repair bill that could buy you a brand new Corvette. Even if the probability is low, that risk absolutely destroys resale value. Off-lease volume is about to make things even more interesting. Most luxury cars in America are leased, not purchased, and the Taycan is no exception. All those 2022 and 2023 models with 3-year leases are starting to come back now like chickens coming home to roost. When lease companies set the residual values back then, they assumed Taycans would hold value like traditional Porsches, maybe dropping 30% in 3 years. They were wrong, catastrophically wrong. Now they're dumping these cars at auction for whatever they can get, flooding the used market from Mannheim to Odessa. The wholesale market data tells the story. According to Mannheim, which tracks dealer auction prices across the country, electric vehicles actually started recovering in mid-2025, even outpacing gas cars in some monthly comparisons. But that's recovering from rock bottom, not returning to old prices. It's like celebrating that your stock portfolio is only down 40% instead of 60%. You're still losing money. Here's what's particularly brutal for early Taycan owners. The 2025 update made their cars obsolete overnight. Imagine buying a 2024 Taycan in January 2024, thinking you're getting the latest and greatest, only to watch Porsche announce a few months later that the 2025 model charges faster, goes further, and drives better. Your brand new car became last generation technology before you made your first insurance payment. The active ride suspension on new models is a perfect example. It's not just a minor improvement, it's transformative. Reviews describe it as revolutionary for ride quality and handling. The 2025 Taycan can literally lean into corners like a motorcycle while keeping the cabin level. Your 2023 model, it has regular adaptive dampers that now feel as outdated as manual windows. Charging speed might not sound like a big deal if you only drive to Whole Foods and back, but it affects value perception massively. The old Taycan maxed out at 270 kilowatts charging speed. The new one hits 320 kilowatts. On a road trip from Chicago to Detroit, that difference means stopping for 22 minutes instead of 30 minutes. Those 8 minutes matter when you're standing at a charging station at a rest stop in the middle of Indiana. Range anxiety, even if it's mostly psychological, devastates electric car values. The 2020 and 2021 Taycans with the smaller battery could barely manage 200 miles in real-world driving, especially in winter. Try driving from Boston to New York in January with the heat on. You're sweating bullets about making it. The 2025 models are hitting 300 miles plus easily. That's the difference between charging anxiety and actually enjoying your commute. But here's what really gets me about this situation. The Taycan is actually an incredible car. Car journalists who hate electric cars love the Taycan. It handles like a proper Porsche should, has an interior nicer than most people's living rooms, and makes amazing spaceship noises when you floor it. The 2025 model deserves its EV of the Year award from Car and Driver, yet none of that matters when market forces turn against you like this. The lease incentive structure created a death spiral for used values. When you can lease a new one for less than buying used, rational buyers lease new. That pushes used prices down further, which makes the lease versus buy calculation even worse for used cars, which pushes used prices down more. It's a feedback loop that only stops when prices hit rock bottom. Software problems added another layer of fear. Beyond the battery recall, early Taycans had numerous software glitches. Screens would freeze like a Windows computer from 1995. Charging would randomly stop in the middle of the night. Driver assistance features would malfunction on the highway. Porsche fixed most of these with over-the-air updates, but the reputation stuck. Americans remember problems longer than they remember fixes. Then consider the competitive landscape beyond direct rivals. The Genesis electrified GV70 offers similar performance for tens of thousands less. The BMW i4 M50 is basically a Taycan competitor at two-thirds the price. Even the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, a car from Hyundai of all companies, is stealing performance EV buyers who might have stretched for a used Taycan. When a Hyundai is eating your lunch, you know the market is shifted. Market psychology plays a huge role too. When everyone on Reddit and Facebook groups knows Taycans are depreciating rapidly, nobody wants to catch that falling knife. Buyers wait for lower prices, which creates less demand, which forces prices lower, which validates their decision to wait. It becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Fleet sales tell another part of the story. Rental companies like Hertz bought thousands of electric cars, including Taycans, thinking they'd save money on gas and maintenance. Instead, they found renters at airports didn't want them, and resale values collapsed faster than expected. Hertz announced they were dumping 30,000 electric cars, flooding the market with more supply and pushing prices down everywhere from California to Florida. Even Porsche dealers are struggling with this. They have used Taycans on their lots that they paid too much for at auction or took in on trade before prices collapsed. They're stuck either taking losses or having inventory that won't move. Some dealers in smaller markets won't even accept Taycan trades anymore unless the deal on the new car makes up for the loss they'll take. The battery degradation question haunts every buyer. While Tesla has years of data showing batteries last longer than expected, the Taycan's batteries are relatively unproven. Buyers worry about spending $70,000 on a used car only to need a $50,000 battery in 3 years. Even if that fear is irrational, it affects prices. Fear drives markets as much as facts. Financing is another killer. Banks and credit unions are nervous about electric car loans because of the depreciation. They're requiring 20 or 30% down and charging higher interest rates, which makes buying even harder. When financing costs more, buyers can afford less car for their monthly payment, pushing prices down further. Service and repair infrastructure matters too. Not every Porsche dealer can properly service a Taycan. If you live in Montana or Wyoming, you might have to drive 300 miles to find one that can work on the high-voltage systems. That inconvenience factors into buyer calculations and hurts values, especially outside major cities. Looking forward, will Taycan prices stay this low? For pre-2025 models, probably yes. The technology gap isn't going away. Those cars will always charge slower and go shorter distances than newer ones. More off-lease volume is coming. Insurance costs aren't dropping. The battery warranty clock keeps ticking toward expiration. But 2025 and newer models should hold better. They've got the better tech that buyers want. The charging speed and range are finally competitive with Tesla. The active ride suspension gives them a genuine advantage over rivals. Porsche might pull back on incentives once they clear old inventory. Wholesale prices have stabilized according to auction data, suggesting we've found a floor. The panic selling is over. Dealers have adjusted their expectations, but stabilizing at a low level isn't the same as recovering to old prices. Pre-2025 Taycans are probably permanent residents of bargain territory. For buyers, this creates an interesting dilemma. You can get an incredible performance car for the price of a loaded Chevy Suburban, but you're also buying into expensive insurance, potential battery replacement costs that could bankrupt you, and continued depreciation that makes the stock market look stable. It's a calculated risk that depends entirely on your personal situation and risk tolerance. The most important thing to understand is that the Taycan didn't become a bad car. It became a victim of terrible timing and market forces beyond anyone's control. The technology improved too fast, the incentives got too aggressive, the competition got too fierce, the recalls came at the worst possible moment. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, all at once, like a perfect storm hitting the automotive market. So yes, the Porsche Taycan really is getting that cheap, and now you know exactly why. It's not one reason, but a perfect storm of factors that created some of the most dramatic depreciation we've ever seen in the luxury car market. Whether that makes it an incredible bargain or a financial disaster depends entirely on which side of the transaction you're on.